Let's say that you got a big cash flow, big check that came in the mail. Maybe you weren't expecting it. Maybe it was, it was trickling in, and then all of a sudden, bam, got a big check. What happened? How do you know what's going on now? How do you know how to plan for things? So let's say that you had one of these tracts in here, and you had maybe 1 acre somewhere in the Upton County, Texas. And normally you're getting $20 a month, but for some reason you got a big check. Where would you start? What would you look at? So based on this particular map, we wouldn't expect there to be anything, because this is supposed to be the latest. I mean, it is the latest and greatest as to which wells are producing. But if you have this one right to the left of it, well, there's some wells that are new right across there. So blue in this map is permitted and purple is about to come online. Maybe it's drilled. Maybe it's a duct waiting to be completed. So drilled uncompleted is what a duct is. And so how would you go about forecasting that? So when you have a new well, you might just to remind ourselves on how these wells end up producing, is the first month you might make 10,000. That well might make 10,000. So let's go ahead and kind of talk through what normally happens with an oil and gas well. So the first month you might see your well, we'll just call this your well. It makes 10,000 barrels that first month. The second month it might make 7,000 barrels. The third month, it might be all the way down to 3,000. This is going to drop very quickly. Now, you probably, if this is the very first well that you're being paid on, you probably have not actually received any money from this yet. This is still all in the back office of the company, and this is still, none of this revenue has made it to you. So if your decimal is 0.02, like on your check, it says your net revenue owner's interest is 0.02 in this particular well, then, and we'll say that oil price is 90, 80, 85. We'll take modern pricing. This is dollars per barrel. So your decimal wouldn't change month to month. The pricing is whatever they're receiving for that well. This is the amount, like total, that the well is producing. And so your income, like theoretical income, this is how you can check that your numbers are coming in relatively correctly, or at least making sense. So you can take the price, and this is the stated price that they receive should be on your check also. So you have your stated price times the number of barrels that well produced times your portion of that. So this first month you might have made, not percentage, we want this one. I saw this one meme that it was like hitting the correct decimal increase, decimal decrease the first time is a 50-50, no matter how many times I've done it. Okay, so back to our example here. We are now 3 months into the production of this hypothetical well. It's been producing and decreasing. We're only dealing with one product stream, but normally there's 3 product streams for most wells. You're going to get your oil, you're going to get your gas, and then it's usually they process the gas and pull off certain more higher value liquids off the gas, usually called plant products. We mentioned that earlier. But let's just look at very simple oil pricing. So right now, the company now owes you $34,000, but they probably haven't paid you yet, because normally division orders come out 3 to 6 months after first production, because it just takes a long time for the company to figure out all the people that you need to pay, because you're probably one of 100, 200, 1,000 people that they need to pay for that well, depending on how many people that well is affecting. So in this, we'll say that your check that you got was $34,000. And we'll say this is the June 30th. Oh, come on. We can't format it the same. Wait, does Painter not work? Boo. I guess it's the TH it doesn't like. There we go. Okay. So you received, and this is actually probably even too soon. You probably received this. It's oil. So there's usually about a 1 or 2 month lag for oil payment. So in July, we'll just go ahead and use the formatting at once. 7/31. You know that you've worked in financial reporting too long when you know exactly how many days each month has without having to think too hard on it, without having to do the little knuckle thing, right? Hopefully y'all know the knuckle thing, and I'm not sounding crazy right there. Okay, so we have not hit June or July. Maybe we should back this up just to make our dates, but no, yeah, okay, no, Tracy. I try to be too particular. The engineer in me gets the best of me sometimes, where I'm like, no, that's not exactly what should happen. But I know that some people really get tripped up by those little details, so I try to be as specific as possible and as exact as possible when I'm doing these examples. But at the same time, I don't want to be too distracting. But let's say that you're going to get paid for this amount in July. So let's pretend it's July. We'll just pretend it's July. And from then on, there's just going to be a 1 month lag on all of the rest of the production. So your check amount, let's say that you got this July check and you're now watching this video going like, well, how do I know what's happening in the future? Am I going to get $34,000 every single month? Because before I only got 20 cents. So how do I know unfortunately I've had people comment, not even comment, I've had people contact me or contact a bank who the bank contacted me, who they received a certain amount last year or last month or insert period, and they are expecting that amount to continue into the future perpetually. And that unfortunately is not how oil and gas works. It can sustain depending on the type of arrangement that you have. Maybe you have a very large amount of minerals that are all being developed over the course of 5 or 6 years, and it sustains wonderfully for 5 or 6 years, but eventually it will start declining. And you're probably part of the very lucky few who, if you do have that type of portfolio. So most people will fall in this bucket where you have kind of big waves that come through. So we'll just continue to decline this. Oh, it doesn't go up like that. Or, arbitrarily decline this well and keep accidentally adding zeros. Here's most likely something like this is what's going to happen. Now, oil and gas prices will be jumping all around the whole time. The pricing that you actually receive might change drastically depending on what is happening regionally, locally, globally, especially for oil. We've talked about this quite a bit since, the beginning of the year especially, but it's going to change quite a bit month to month. But overall, you should see a decrease. Now, if we look at this amount in our little estimator here, that first check might be $34,000, but the second check might be $2,800, and this well is doing exactly what it should be doing. Like, this might be exactly what it's supposed to do. No impact at all as into production. It's not an underperforming well. This is just what happens. It is difficult to judge the future off of that first check, is mostly what I'm trying to say. However, if you're trying to figure out how to predict that, this is one way that you can do it, is plotting up this type of income here. Now, if you're wanting to do this on your own, this is all math based on how these wells decline. There's decline curve analysis is the type of science behind it, and in general, let's see how close of a we have August, all right, so this is pretty reasonable. Now, for most oil and gas wells, if you were to format the axis on this side here to be logarithmic scale, then you'll probably end up with, modern wells, you're still going to get a curve, but the longer the well produces, the closer to something like a straight line that you're going to get. And this is all fake data, so we're not going to get a straight line from this. But if I zoom in a little bit on the axis, what you could do if you're trying to figure out on your own, just in using Excel, or you can even do this with a pen and paper and a graphing paper and drawing a line. You can put a line through this number And I would use this is really, really rough oil and gas, how-tos. However, if you're wanting to ballpark things, put it on a logarithmic scale, put a line through the last maybe 3 to 6 months, and there you have it. You're at least an entry-level petroleum engineer doing decline curve analysis. Now, there's a lot more sophisticated things that go into it, a lot of dynamics that are affecting the early time, the late time. How do you handle if the well got shut in, if the well's underperforming, overperforming, all those things. However, this is the very rudimentary how things are forecasted. So if I wanted to know what's going to happen for the next month and the next month, I could just look at this line and say, okay, well, for the month following, we're estimating just over, and here I'm going to add the minor grid lines, which you still can't barely see. Well, maybe that's like 1,000. And you could estimate what's going to happen the next month by taking what that line is projecting and then running all the same numbers using your interest and the pricing that you're seeing. So that is a very simplistic way to project what's happening in the future. I know that this is a complex thing to do on your own, but this is also why people like me exist. If you really need to deal into it,